Captain Lee Kang-ho stood at attention in the command center of his starship. His hands were steady, but inside he was burning with anger. The tall, crystal-like alien in front of him spoke in a voice that sounded like breaking glass. "Human. Your ship moved 3 seconds too slow during the last supply run," said Commander Vextal of the Vorthak Empire. "This shows your species is still too primitive for proper space travel." Lee Kang-ho had been flying starships for 20 years. He knew every bolt and wire in his vessel. He could navigate through asteroid fields that would destroy most alien ships. But he said nothing. He just nodded his head like he was supposed to. "Yes, Commander Vextal, I will do better next time." The crystal alien made a sound like ice cracking. This was how the Vorthak laughed. "Good. Your species learns slowly, but you do learn. Take your cargo to Mining Station 7. Do not be late again." After the alien left, Lee Kang-ho's first. Officer Lieutenant Park Hyun-woo walked up to him. Park's face was red with anger, but he kept his voice quiet. "Captain, that alien couldn't fly a paper airplane through a hangar bay." "How dare he talk to you like that?" Lee Kang-ho put his hand on Park's shoulder. "Keep your voice down, Lieutenant. The walls have ears these days." This was life for humans in the galaxy. They did all the hard work but got none of the credit. They built the ships, mined the metals, and grew the food that kept the galactic economy running. But they were treated like children who could barely tie their own shoes. On the planet Earth, Ambassador Park Mi-young was having another terrible day at the Galactic Council. She sat in the smallest chair at the huge round table. All around her were the representatives of the superior species, the Vorthak Empire, with their crystal bodies that could live for 1,000 years, the Nexari Collective, who were made of gas and thought they were smarter than everyone else. "The human requests permission to speak," announced the council secretary, a floating blob of green slime called a hegemite. Park Mi-young stood up. She had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years, and every day was the same humiliation. "Honored council members, I come before you today to discuss trade agreements for human colonies." What could a Tier 3 species possibly have to offer? Interrupted. Nexus Prime Zalthok, the main representative of the Nexari Collective. His gaseous form swirled with colors that showed his amusement. "Your people dig rocks from the ground. This is not trade. This is labor." Park Mi-young had prepared for this. She pulled out a data pad and showed holographic charts. In the past, human colonies have provided 40% of all rare metals used in galactic shipbuilding. We have also developed new farming techniques that increased food production by 30% on 17 different worlds. The crystal representative of the Vorthak Empire, High Counselor Kresna, made that ice-cracking laugh sound. "The human speaks as if these simple tasks require intelligence. A trained animal could do the same work." "But honored counselor," Park Mi-young said carefully, "surely the results speak for themselves. Our methods work better than the old ways." "Better?" Nexus Prime. Zalthok's gas form turned dark red, which meant anger. "You dare to suggest that primitive human methods are superior to technology developed by advanced civilizations over millions of years?" Park Mi-young felt her face get hot, but she kept her voice calm. "I only meant to say that our techniques have shown good results." "Sit down, human," ordered High Counselor Kresna. "Your species will continue to perform the simple labor assigned to you. Do not waste the Council's time with these foolish ideas about trade agreements." Park Mi-young sat down. Around the table, representatives from dozens of alien species watched with expressions that ranged from boredom to disgust. Not one of them spoke up for humanity. Not one of them ever did. Far away on the mining world of Kepler 442b, Dr. Kim Tae-jin was making a discovery that would change everything. He worked in a small laboratory built into the side of a mountain. The air recycler was old and made too much noise. The lights flickered sometimes. But Dr. Kim didn't care about comfort. He cared about science. He was studying quantum particles in the rare crystals that humans mined from this world. For months, he had noticed strange patterns in the way the particles behaved. Today, he finally understood what he was seeing. "This is impossible," he whispered to himself. But the numbers didn't lie. The crystals weren't just storing energy like everyone thought. They were actually bending space-time in tiny ways. If he was right, this could lead to faster than light. Travel that didn't need the huge engines currently used by galactic ships. Dr. Kim worked all night, running test after test. By morning, he was sure. He had discovered something that could revolutionize space travel, something that could make trips between stars as easy as driving to the next town. He sent his findings to the Galactic Science Council, following all the proper procedures. A human scientist had to have all discoveries approved by alien supervisors before they could be published. Dr. Kim waited 3 days for a response. The message came from Science Director Vorthak Hesmal, a crystal alien, who oversaw all research on human worlds. "Human scientist Kim, your data has been reviewed. The discovery you describe has been made by Vorthak researchers working on our home world. Your work shows you have learned to follow proper scientific methods taught by your betters. Continue your mining crystal studies. You may learn more useful things." Dr. Kim read the message 3 times. He checked the dates. His research was completed and submitted weeks before any Vorthak scientist could have made the same discovery. They had stolen his work and were claiming credit for it. He walked to his small window and looked out at the mining facility below. Hundreds of human workers were loading trucks with crystals. They worked 12-hour shifts in dangerous conditions. Many of them had engineering or science degrees from Earth universities. But the aliens said humans were only smart enough for physical labor. Down in the mining tunnels, Commander Choi Yunji was having problems of her own. She was in charge of all mining operations on Kepler 442b, but she had to report to an alien supervisor who had never worked a day in the mines. "The quota for this month must increase by 20%, announced Supervisor Grixtal, a slug-like alien from the Hegemite species. "The Vorthak Empire needs more crystals for their new warships." Commander Choi looked at the production charts. "Sir, we're already working at maximum capacity. To increase production by 20%, we would need more equipment and more workers." "Then work longer hours," Grixtal said simply. "Humans are strong. You can handle more work than you are doing." "Sir, the workers are already exhausted. We've had 3 accidents this week because people are too tired to focus properly." The slug alien's eye stalks turned toward her. "Are you questioning orders from your superiors?" Commander Choi felt the familiar burning in her chest. The same anger that Captain Lee Kang-ho felt on his ship. The same frustration that Ambassador Park Mi-young experienced every day at the council. The same rage that Dr. Kim Tae-jin was feeling as his life's work was stolen from him. "No, sir," she said quietly. "I'll find a way to increase production." That night, Commander Choi called a meeting with her section leaders. They gathered in the deepest part of the mine, where the alien listening devices couldn't reach them. "How much more can our people take?" asked Foreman Yu Jae-sung, a man whose hair had turned gray from stress and hard work. "I don't know," Commander Choi admitted. but I know we can't keep going like this forever." "The aliens think we're stupid," said Engineer Han So-Ra. "They steal our ideas and treat us like animals. But we're the ones keeping this whole galaxy running." Around the circle, other humans nodded. These were good people. Engineers, doctors, teachers, scientists. All of them reduced to manual labor because the aliens said humans weren't smart enough for anything else. "What if we made some mistakes?" suggested Mechanic Song Jun-Ho quietly. "Nothing dangerous. Just little problems that slow things down." "Commander." Choi looked at him carefully. "What kind of problems?" "Equipment breakdowns, computer glitches, things that happen naturally in mines sometimes." The group was quiet for a moment. They all knew what Song Jun-Ho was really suggesting. Not accidents. Sabotage. "We have to be very careful, Commander," Choi said finally. "If they catch us, they'll make examples of our families." "They're already making examples of us," Engineer Han So-Ra pointed out. "Every day, they show the galaxy that humans are nothing but slaves who should be grateful for the privilege of serving their betters." Up in his laboratory, Dr. Kim Tae-jin was making copies of all his research. He encrypted the files and hid them in places where the aliens would never think to look. If they wanted to steal human discoveries, they would have to work harder for them. On Earth, Ambassador Park Mi-young sat in her office late at night, writing reports that no one would read and making recommendations that no one would follow. She thought about her daughter, who was starting school next year. In the alien education system, human children learned that their species was naturally inferior. They learned to be grateful for alien guidance and never to dream of being more than what the galaxy allowed them to be. Captain Lee Kang-ho was flying another supply run to another mining world. His crew worked efficiently and professionally, but they had to pretend to be confused. 6 months had passed since the first accident at the mining station on Kepler 442b. What started as one broken drill had become a pattern that made alien supervisors very unhappy. Sergeant Yoon Dong-woo was not supposed to be on Kepler 442b. According to his official records, he was a retired Earth military man who now worked as a maintenance supervisor. The aliens believed this story because they wanted to believe it. They thought humans were too simple to lie effectively. They were wrong. Yoon Dong-woo had served 15 years in Earth's military before the aliens decided that humans were too dangerous to have armed forces. Now he used his skills in different ways. He taught other humans how to make equipment fail at exactly the right moment. He showed them how to create problems that looked natural but happened when alien supervisors were watching. "The key is patience," he explained to a small group of workers in the deep tunnels. "We don't want to hurt anyone. We just want to make their lives inconvenient." Engineer Han So-Ra had become very good at creating inconvenience. Her specialty was programming mining robots to develop mysterious glitches. The robots would work perfectly when humans operated them, but they became confused and slow when aliens took control. "Today's target is the new Vorthak inspector," she told her team. "He's coming to check our efficiency ratings. Let's make sure he sees how primitive human technology can be." The inspection did not go well for Inspector Claveth. Every machine he touched seemed to develop problems. Conveyor belts stopped moving. Computer screens showed error messages in languages that didn't exist. Loading vehicles moved in circles instead of straight lines. "What is wrong with these machines?" he demanded, his crystal body flashing angry red colors. "We're sorry, Inspector," said Commander Choi Eun-ji with perfect innocence. "Our equipment is very old. Humans aren't smart enough to build reliable technology like your people do. Inspector Claveth spent 3 days on Kepler 442b. 3 days of watching human machinery break down in impossible ways. When he finally left, his report stated that human technology was even more primitive than previously thought. The High Command decided that humans needed more alien supervision, not less. This was exactly what the Resistance wanted them to think. Across the galaxy, similar incidents were happening on dozens of human worlds. Equipment failures, communication breakdowns, and scheduling problems that somehow only occurred when aliens were present. Each incident was small and seemed natural. But together, they formed a pattern that worried some of the smarter alien administrators. Not that they shared these worries with their superiors. In the rigid hierarchy of galactic civilization, reporting problems was often seen as admitting failure. Better to handle things quietly and hope the issues resolved themselves. On Earth, Dr. Kim Tae-jin's stolen research had been published under the name of Vorthak scientist Hesamal the Enlightened. The breakthrough in quantum crystal manipulation was being hailed as the greatest scientific discovery in 1,000 years. Dr. Kim watched the award ceremony on his small laboratory screen and felt something cold settle in his chest. But Dr. Kim wasn't just angry anymore. He was planning. Working late at night, he had developed something new, a way to encode quantum signatures into crystal matrices that only humans could detect. The aliens could steal his research, but they couldn't steal knowledge they didn't know existed. He sent encrypted messages to human scientists on 17 different worlds. The message was simple. The old teachings were wrong. Start looking deeper. One by one, human scientists began making discoveries that they kept secret. They learned that alien technology wasn't superior to human engineering. It was just different. In many ways, it was actually less efficient than what humans could build. The problem was that humans had been forced to use alien designs for so long that they had forgotten their own capabilities. Merchant Song Joon-ho was helping to change that. Officially, he ran a small trading company that moved supplies between human colonies. Unofficially, he smuggled information, equipment, and people through a network that the aliens couldn't track. His ship, the Lucky Star, looked like a piece of junk held together with spare parts and good intentions. The aliens barely glanced at it when he docked at their stations. They certainly never suspected that it contained hidden compartments filled with human-designed technology that worked better than anything in their own fleets. The trick is to look harmless, Song Joon-ho explained to his new crew member navigator, Kim Min-ho. The aliens see what they expect to see. They expect humans to be incompetent, so they don't look too closely at anything we do. Song Joon-ho's network had grown from 12 smugglers to over 300 ships. They moved through alien space like ghosts, carrying messages and materials that were slowly connecting human colonies in ways the galactic government never intended. One of those messages reached Captain Lee Kang-ho during a routine supply run to the outer colonies. It was hidden in a shipment manifest, encoded in a way that looked like clerical errors. To an alien inspector, it was just more evidence of human sloppiness. To Lee Kang-ho, it was an invitation. The message led him to a meeting on a forgotten asteroid in an empty system. When he arrived, he found 12 other starship captains waiting for him, all humans, all tired of pretending to be incompetent. "Welcome to the Real Earth Fleet," said Admiral Shin Jae-wook. Lee Kang-ho stared at the woman in disbelief. According to official records, Admiral Shin had died in a training accident 5 years ago. According to reality, she had been building a secret military force that the aliens knew nothing about. "How is this possible?" Li Kang-ho asked. "The same way everything else is possible," Admiral Shin replied. "We let them think we're too stupid to organize something like this." She led him to an observation deck where he could see the hidden shipyard. Dozens of vessels were under construction, built with human designs that incorporated technology the aliens had never imagined. These ships were smaller than alien battleships, but faster and more maneuverable. They could be operated by crews 1/10 the size of comparable alien vessels. "We've been preparing for this day since the moment they classified us as a servitor. Species," Admiral Shin explained. "Every insult, every theft, every humiliation, we've been keeping track." Back on Earth, Ambassador Park Mi-young was facing her worst day yet at the Galactic Council. The alien representatives had grown tired of even pretending to listen to human concerns. When she stood to address the council, several aliens didn't even look up from their personal devices. "Honored council members," she began, "I bring grave concerns about the health and safety of human workers in the mining colonies." "Sit down," interrupted High Counselor Kresna, without even looking at her. "The council has more important matters to discuss." "But, Counselor, human workers on 7 different worlds have reported increased accident rates due to equipment failures." "We need better safety protocols. I said sit down!" The crystal alien's voice cracked like thunder. "Your species exists to serve the galaxy, not to make demands on your betters." The council chamber fell silent. In 5 years as ambassador, Park Mi-young had never been spoken to with such open contempt. Even the alien representatives who usually ignored her seemed surprised by Kresna's harshness. Park Mi-young remained standing. "I am the elected representative of 4 billion human beings. I have a right to speak for my people's safety." Nexus Prime. Zalthok's gaseous form swirled with dark colors. "You have no rights except those we choose to give you. Your species was classified as Tier 3 servitors for good reason. You lack the intelligence to participate in galactic governance." "Then why," Park Mi-young asked quietly, "do human colonies produce 40% of the galaxy's rare metals, 60% of its food, and provide the labor for 80% of its manufacturing?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. For a moment, the council chamber was completely quiet. Then High Counselor Kresna began to laugh. That terrible sound like breaking ice filled the chamber. "Because that is what servitor species do, human. They work. They do not think. They do not question. They certainly do not imagine themselves equal to their superiors." Other council members joined the laughter. The sound echoed off the chamber walls like the howling of wolves. Park Mi-young stood in the center of it all, her face burning with shame and anger. But she did not sit down. She would not give them that satisfaction. When the laughter finally stopped, she spoke in a voice that was calm but carried to every corner of the chamber. "I will remember this moment," she said. "All humans will remember this moment." 3 days. Later, new restrictions were announced for all human colonies. The Galactic Council had decided that humans needed additional guidance to prevent them from developing inappropriate ambitions. The new rules were designed to be humiliating. Humans could no longer gather in groups larger than 5 without alien supervision. All human communications had to be monitored by alien sensors. Human children would be educated in special schools where they would learn proper respect for galactic hierarchy. Most insulting of all, humans would now be required to bow whenever an alien entered the room. Not a simple nod of respect, but a full bow that showed complete submission. The announcement was broadcast to every human world simultaneously. In mining stations, on. The final integration protocol arrived at New Shanghai Colony on a Tuesday morning. The announcement came through every communication device at once, impossible to ignore or turn off. Citizens of New Shanghai Colony, the synthetic voice proclaimed, by order of the Galactic Council, all human residents will be relocated to integration facilities for your protection and continued development as productive members of galactic society. Dr. John Haye Rim was working in her laboratory when the announcement played. She was one of the colony's leading biotechnology researchers, though her work was officially supervised by a Nexari gas being who barely understood basic chemistry. When she heard the word integration, her blood turned cold. She had seen classified reports about integration facilities. They weren't schools or training centers. They were processing plants designed to turn humans into something else entirely. The relocation ships arrived 3 days later. Massive vessels that blocked out the sun when they passed overhead. The aliens called them education transports, but they looked more like prison ships to the humans watching from below. All human children between the ages of 5 and 15 must report to Transport Station Alpha immediately, announced the ship's loudspeakers. Parents may accompany children to the loading area but will not be permitted aboard the transports. Families gathered at the transport station with their children, unsure what else to do. The aliens had overwhelming force, armed security drones, energy weapons, and ships that could destroy the entire colony from orbit. Resistance seemed impossible. 8-year-old Lee So-young held her mother's hand tightly as they approached the loading ramp. She had been excited about going to the special school until she saw the fear in her mother's eyes. "When will I see you again, Mom?" she asked. Her mother, Park Jin-ae, knelt down and hugged her daughter close. "I don't know, sweetheart. But remember what I taught you about being strong. Remember that you are human, and humans never give up." Security drones separated them at the loading ramp. Park Jin-ae watched her daughter disappear into the dark interior of the ship, along with 300 other children from the colony. Similar scenes were happening across 17 human worlds. Tens of thousands of children torn from their families and loaded onto ships bound for unknown destinations. Parents who tried to resist were stunned by energy weapons and marked for corrective processing. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, pilot Nam Woo-jin watched the children being loaded through his ship's observation window. He was supposed to be delivering supplies to the mining station, but all work had stopped when the integration ships arrived. "This is wrong," he said to his co-pilot, Engineer Bae Soo-jin. "This is so very wrong." "Keep your voice down," she warned. "The aliens have listening devices everywhere now." But Nam Woo-jin couldn't stay quiet. He had 2 children of his own back on Earth. The thought of them being taken away like this made him physically sick. "We can't just watch this happen," he whispered. "What can we do?" Bae Soo-jin asked. "They have weapons that could turn us to ash in seconds." Nam Woo-jin didn't have an answer, but as he watched the last transport ship disappear into hyperspace, he made a promise to himself. Somehow, someway, those children would come home. On Earth, Ambassador Park Mi-young received an emergency message from the Galactic Council. She was ordered to appear before them immediately to discuss compliance issues with the integration protocol. When she arrived at the council chambers, she found the alien representatives in an unusually cheerful mood. High Counselor Kresna's crystal body was glowing with satisfaction. "Ambassador Park," he said, his voice crackling like thin ice. "We trust you approve of the steps being taken to properly educate human youth?" Park Mi-young had spent 5 years learning to control her emotions in front of these aliens. But today, something was different. Today she couldn't find the strength to pretend anymore. "You're taking our children?" she said simply. "We are providing them with proper education," corrected Nexus Prime Zalthok. "Education that will help them become productive members of galactic society instead of remaining primitive and backward." "Their children," Park Mi-young repeated. "They belong with their families." The council chamber erupted in that terrible laughter again, the sound that had haunted Park Mi-young's dreams for months. "Humans are incapable of properly raising their own offspring," declared High Counselor Kresna. "This has been scientifically proven. Human children left to their own species develop aggressive tendencies and unrealistic expectations about their place in the galaxy." Park Mi-young stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by the laughter of beings who saw her species as nothing more than useful animals. For the first time since becoming ambassador, she stopped trying to be diplomatic. "You will return our children," she said in a voice that carried to every corner of the chamber. The laughter stopped abruptly. "Did you just issue an order to this council?" asked Nexus Prime Zalthok, his gaseous form swirling with dangerous colors. "I made a statement of fact," Park Mi-young replied. "You will return our children because taking them is wrong, and you know it's wrong." High Counselor Kresna rose from his seat, towering over the human ambassador. "You forget your place, human. You are here by our sufferance, not by right. You speak for a servitor species that exists to serve the galaxy, not to make demands. I speak for 4 billion human beings who have been patient with your cruelty for far too long." The words hung in the air like a challenge. No human had ever spoken to the council like this before. In the long history of galactic civilization, Tier 3 species simply didn't challenge their betters. "Security," called High Counselor Kresna. "Remove this human from the chamber. She is clearly suffering from psychological instability." As security drones moved toward her, Park Mi-young made one final statement. "When human patience breaks," she said calmly, "you will wish you had listened to us when we were still being reasonable." The drones stunned her before she could say another word. Dr. Jian Hai Rim was working late in her laboratory when she made the discovery that changed everything. She had been analyzing biological samples from the integration facilities, smuggled out by human workers who risked their lives to get them. The samples told a horrifying story. The facilities weren't educating human children. They were experimenting on them, using advanced biotechnology to alter their brain chemistry, their genetic structure, their fundamental humanity. The goal was to create a new kind of human, one that couldn't feel anger, couldn't question authority, couldn't even imagine resisting alien control. They were turning human children into biological robots programmed to serve without complaint for the rest of their lives. Dr. Jian Hai Rim ran the tests 3 times to make sure. Then she sat in her empty laboratory and cried for an hour. When she was done crying, she began making copies of all the evidence. The galaxy needed to know what was happening to human children. More importantly, humans needed to know. She sent the files through every communication channel she could access. Within hours, the evidence was spreading through human space faster than the aliens could stop it. On the hidden asteroid base where Admiral Shin Jae-wook commanded the secret human fleet, the reaction was immediate and unanimous. "They're not just taking our children," said Captain Lee Kang-ho, his voice shaking with rage. "They're destroying them. They're turning them into something that isn't human anymore." Around the briefing table, 20 ship captains nodded grimly. These were people who had spent years preparing for the day when human patience finally ran out. They had built ships, trained crews, and developed weapons in secret, but they had always hoped it wouldn't come to this. "The integration protocol isn't just about control," Admiral Shin explained. "It's about genocide. They want to eliminate human consciousness while keeping human bodies to do their work." General An Kyung-soo appeared on the holographic communication system, broadcasting from his hidden command center on Earth. "I've been in contact with resistance cells on 47 worlds," he reported. "The aliens have made their intentions clear. They don't just want to rule us, they want to erase us." The room fell silent as the full implications sank in. This wasn't about territory or resources anymore. This was about survival. "What are our options?" asked Captain Oh Yoo-jin, commander of the stealth ship Shadow Walker. Admiral Shin looked around the table at faces she had known for years. Good people who had been pushed beyond their limits by an enemy that couldn't understand the difference between patience and weakness. "We have two choices," she said. "We can surrender and watch our species disappear forever, or we can fight. If we fight, we'll be going up against the combined military forces of the Galactic Empire," pointed out Captain Nam Woo-jin. "They have thousands of ships. We have dozens." "They have thousands of ships built with our technology," Admiral Shin corrected. "Ships that depend on human-designed systems, ships that we know how to disable." She activated a holographic display showing detailed schematics of alien vessels. "For the past 5 years, we've been installing hidden override systems in every piece of equipment we build for them. Every ship, every weapon, every computer system has back doors that only we know about." The captain stared at the display in amazement. It was a masterpiece of long-term planning. The first strike happened at exactly Oro 300 Galactic Standard Time, across 17 star systems simultaneously. The aliens never saw it coming. Admiral Shin Jae-wook stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable Will, as hidden human ships dropped out of hyperspace around alien military installations. For 5 years, she had dreamed of this moment. For 5 years, she had prepared for war while pretending to be dead. "All ships report ready, Admiral," announced her communications officer, Lieutenant Park Hyun-woo, the same man who had served under Captain Lee Kang-ho during the years of humiliation. "Send the message," Admiral Shin ordered. Throughout human space, every alien facility received the same transmission at the same moment. The voice belonged to General An Kyung-soo, speaking from his command center on Earth. "To all alien forces currently occupying human worlds, you have taken our children, stolen our discoveries, and treated us as slaves for too long. We are reclaiming our freedom. Surrender now, and you will be treated with the mercy you never showed us. Continue to resist and face the consequences of pushing a peaceful people too far." The response from alien commanders was predictable: laughter, threats, and promises of swift punishment for the rebellious primitives. They stopped laughing when every piece of technology in their bases simultaneously shut down. Engineer Han So-ra had spent 2 years preparing for this moment. Working with a network of human technicians across the galaxy, she had installed hidden override codes in every system the aliens depended on: life support, weapons, communications, navigation, all of it designed and built by human hands, all of it vulnerable to human control. "Execute Protocol 0, she announced from her command center on Kepler 442b. Across alien space, the lights went out. On the Vorthak military station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Commander Claveth watched in horror as his control systems went dark, one by one. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting eerie shadows through the crystal corridors. "What's happening?" he demanded. "All systems are offline, Commander," reported his aide, Technician Brestall. "Life support, weapons, communications, everything." "That's impossible. These systems were built with Vorthak technology." "No, sir," came a voice from the shadows. "They were built with human technology that you stole from us." Commander Claveth spun around to see Sergeant Yoon Dong-woo step out of a maintenance corridor. The human was supposed to be in the detention center, arrested during the recent crackdowns on resistance activities. "How did you escape?" Claveth demanded. "We didn't escape," Yoon Dong-woo replied calmly. "We were never really prisoners. We were just waiting for the right moment." All around the station, human maintenance workers were emerging from service tunnels and storage areas. Workers who had been ignored and dismissed as harmless laborers. Workers who knew every system, every corridor, every weakness in the alien. Installations they had been forced to build. "You're outnumbered 100-1, Claveth snarled, his crystal body flashing with threat displays. "Yes," Yoon Dong-woo agreed. "But we control the air you breathe, the water you drink, and the gravity that keeps you standing. Would you like to negotiate, or would you prefer to find out how long Vorthak can survive in vacuum?" Similar scenes were playing out across 17 star systems. Alien administrators who had ruled through fear and intimidation found themselves at the mercy of the humans they had oppressed. But the real surprise was yet to come. Captain Lee Kang-ho commanded the assault on the Nexari listening post at Wolf 359. As his ship, the Rising Phoenix, approached the station, enemy vessels moved to intercept. "3 Nexari destroyers coming about to engage us, Captain," reported his tactical officer. "Let them come," Lee Kang-ho replied. "Time to show them what human engineering can really do." The Nexari ships opened fire with plasma cannons that should have reduced the human vessel to scrap metal. Instead, their weapons passed harmlessly through the Rising Phoenix, as if it weren't there. "Impossible!" gasped the Nexari commander. "Our targeting systems show direct hits." What the aliens didn't know was that human scientists had finally mastered the quantum technology they had been studying in secret for decades. Dr. Kim Tae-jin's research had led to breakthroughs in dimensional manipulation that made human ships effectively invisible to alien sensors. The Rising Phoenix dropped its stealth field and returned fire with weapons the Nexari had never seen before. Quantum disruptors that didn't just damage alien ships, they made their molecules forget how to hold together. The battle lasted less than 3 minutes. When it was over, the Nexari listening post was drifting in space with all systems dead and its crew in full retreat. "Message from Admiral Shin," reported the communications officer. "Phase 1 is complete. All primary targets secured." Captain Lee Kang-ho allowed himself a small smile. After years of pretending to be incompetent, it felt good to show what humans could really do. But the most important mission was happening far from the battle zones. Colonel Bae Min-ho led the assault on Integration Facility 7, where 3,000 human children were being held and experimented on. His team consisted entirely of volunteers, parents, teachers, and former soldiers who had risked everything to save the next generation. "Remember," he told his team as they approached the facility, The children have been through trauma we can't imagine. They may not trust us at first. Be patient. The facility's defenses were impressive by alien standards. Energy barriers, automated weapons, and guard posts manned by professional soldiers. But the aliens had made their usual mistake. They had built their defenses to keep threats out, not to keep humans in. And every system in the facility had been designed and built by human contractors. Han So-Ra, we're in position, Colonel Bay whispered into his communicator. Understood. Colonel, shutting down facility defenses in 3, 2, 1, now. The energy barriers flickered and died. The automated weapons went silent. The lights went out throughout the complex. Go, go, go! Colonel Bay's team swept through the facility like a tide of righteous anger. They had trained for this mission for months, memorizing every corridor and room. They knew exactly where the children were being held. The alien guards, stumbling in the darkness without their technology, were no match for humans fighting for their children. In Cell Block 7, 10-year-old Lee So-Young heard the sounds of battle approaching. She had been preparing for this moment, teaching the other children to stay calm and follow instructions when the rescue came. "This is it," she whispered to her bunk mates. "The humans are coming for us." The cell door exploded inward, and a figure in black combat gear appeared in the doorway. "It's okay, kids," said a gentle voice. "We're taking you home." Lee So-Young looked up at the soldier's face and saw tears streaming down his cheeks. She realized that these weren't just soldiers. They were parents who had come to save children they had never met because those children were human. "Are you really going to take us home?" asked a small boy who had been in the facility for 6 months. "Yes," Colonel Bay promised. "We're going to take all of you home." The rescue was swift and efficient. Within an hour, every child in the facility had been evacuated to waiting transport ships. The alien scientists who had been conducting the experiments were left tied up in their laboratories with a note. "These are children, not test subjects. Remember that." Similar rescues were happening at integration facilities across alien space. Thousands of human children, some of whom had been given up for lost, were being returned to their families. But the aliens weren't giving up without a fight. High Counselor Kresna stood in the emergency command center on the Vorthak home world, watching reports pour in from across the galaxy. In the span of 6 hours, the humans had crippled alien operations on 47 worlds, rescued their children, and demonstrated military capabilities that shouldn't have existed. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Intelligence reports indicated that humans had no significant military forces." "The reports were wrong, Counselor," admitted Intelligence Director Voskol. "The humans have been deceiving us for years. They built a hidden fleet while pretending to be primitive and helpless. And our own forces, completely dependent on human-built technology, technology that the humans can apparently control at will." Kresna's crystal body flashed with rage. "Then we use ships and weapons built with purely Vorthak technology. We crush this rebellion before it spreads. Sir, most of our purely Vorthak technology incorporates human innovations from decades ago. We have been so dependent on human engineering that we barely remember how to build our own systems." The full scope of human deception was becoming clear. For generations, the aliens had been stealing human discoveries and incorporating them into their own technology. They had become completely dependent on innovations from a species they considered inferior. Now those innovations were being turned against them. The war's second phase began when the Galactic fleet arrived at Earth with orders to end the human rebellion by destroying their home world. 500 alien ships, the largest military force ever assembled, dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. They found themselves facing a human fleet that shouldn't have existed. Admiral Shin Jae-wook stood on the bridge of her flagship as the alien armada approached. She had 100 ships against their 5. The war that followed would be remembered as the shortest and most decisive conflict in galactic history. What the aliens expected to be a quick suppression of primitive rebels became a systematic dismantling of everything they thought they knew about power. Fleet Admiral Ko Yun-ho commanded the Liberation Fleet that swept through the Vorthak Empire's outer territories. Her ships moved like ghosts through enemy space, appearing without warning to free human colonies and disable alien military bases. "Target acquired," reported Captain Lim Da-yun from her strike ship, Swift Justice. "Vorthak mining operation on Kepler 62F. Estimate 4,000 human workers in forced labor conditions. Rules of engagement remain the same," Admiral Ko replied. "Disable their weapons and give them one chance to surrender. If they refuse, show them why that's a mistake." The Vorthak garrison at Kepler 62F had been warned about human terrorist attacks on other installations. Commander Hessenal was confident his defenses could handle anything the primitives threw at him. He was wrong. Captain Lim's strike force materialized out of quantum stealth directly above the mining facility, before the Vorthak could even sound. An alarm? Every weapon system on the planet was disabled by electromagnetic pulse bombs that seemed to work by magic. "Attention, Vorthak forces!" Captain Lim broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Lim Da-un of the Human Liberation Fleet. You have 30 seconds to surrender and evacuate this facility. Your workers are now under our protection." Commander Hessenal activated his emergency communicator. "This is Kepler 62F mining station. We are under attack by human rebels. Request immediate assistance." The response came from Admiral Ko herself. "Commander Hessenal, this is Fleet Admiral Ko Eun-ho. There will be no assistance coming. The Vorthak 3rd Fleet surrendered 2 hours ago. The 5th Fleet was destroyed at Proxima Station. You are alone." On the ground, human workers were emerging from the mines to see impossible ships hovering in the sky. Ships that looked like they were made of liquid starlight, piloted by humans in military uniforms. Foreman Yu Jae-sung, who had been working the mines for 8 years, fell to his knees and wept. "I never thought I'd live to see this day." But the most shocking thing wasn't the advanced human technology or the swift military victories. It was the mercy. When Commander Hessenal finally surrendered, he expected to be executed like alien commanders would do to defeated enemies. Instead, he found himself sitting across a table from Captain Lim in what could only be described as a civilized conversation. "You enslaved 4,000 of my people," Captain Lim said calmly. "You worked them 16 hours a day in dangerous conditions. Some of them died from exhaustion." Commander Hessenal's crystal body flickered with fear. "I was following orders. The Galactic Council classified humans as—" "I know what you classified us as," Captain Lim interrupted. "The question is, what do you want to be classified as now?" "I don't understand." "We're offering you a choice, Commander. You can return to Vorthak space and report that humans are now free and should be left alone. Or you can stay here and help us repair the damage your people caused. Either way, you won't be harmed." Commander Hessenal stared at her in amazement. "You're not going to execute me?" "Why would we do that? Revenge doesn't bring back the dead or heal the injured. But rebuilding might help prevent this from happening again." This conversation was happening across dozens of star systems as human forces completed their liberation campaign. Alien commanders who expected death found themselves offered chances to redeem themselves. Prison guards who had brutalized human workers were put to work building hospitals for their former victims. The psychological impact was devastating to alien morale. They had been taught that humans were primitive and savage. Finding themselves treated with mercy by a species they had oppressed created a crisis of faith in their own superiority. On the Nexari capital world, Nexus Prime Zalthok called an emergency session of the Collective Council. The gaseous beings swirled in patterns of confusion and fear as reports poured in from across their territory. The humans have seized control of the Kepler sector, reported military coordinator Nexval. Their ships appear and disappear without warning. Our forces can't track them, can't target them, and can't match their speed. What about the integration facilities? Asked Nexus Prime Zalthok. All 17 have been captured. The human children have been rescued. Our research staff. They were not harmed, but they were forced to turn over all experimental data. And our own colonies. The humans aren't attacking civilian populations. They're only targeting military installations and facilities where humans were being held. Nexus Prime Zalthok's gaseous form darkened with worry. This wasn't how wars were supposed to work. Civilized species fought for territory and resources. They didn't wage campaigns of liberation with surgical precision. What do the humans want? He asked finally. The answer came from an unexpected source. A human transmission appeared on every screen in the council chamber. The speaker was Admiral Shin Jae-wook, broadcasting from her flagship in the heart of what had once been secure Nexari space. Citizens of the Nexari Collective, she said, humanity does not seek conquest or revenge. We seek only what should have been ours from the beginning, the right to exist as free beings in a galaxy that has room for all species. You have held our people in bondage, stolen our innovations, and attempted to destroy our children's minds. These crimes cannot be forgotten, but they can be forgiven if you choose to learn from them. Withdraw your forces from human space. Return any humans still held in your facilities. Acknowledge our sovereignty over our own worlds. Do these things, and there will be peace between us. Refuse, and face the consequences of pushing a patient people beyond their breaking point. The transmission ended, leaving the Nexari Council in stunned silence. They had never been spoken to like this by a Tier 3 species. More unsettling was the realization that they were no longer in a position to object. Cyber warfare specialist Ryu Sang-min was having the time of his life. For years, he had maintained alien computer systems while secretly documenting their weaknesses. Now he was using that knowledge to turn their own technology against them. Nexari communication networks are completely compromised, he reported to his team. Every message they send, we can intercept. Every order they give, we can countermand. His counterpart on the Vorthak networks, systems engineer Park So-young, was having similar success. I've got administrative access to their entire bureaucracy. Want to see something funny? I just promoted every human worker on Vorthak Station, 7 to management level, and demoted their overseers to janitors. This was psychological warfare on a scale the aliens had never experienced. Not only were their military forces being defeated, but their entire social structure was being turned upside down by humans who understood their systems better than they did. The breaking point came when human forces reached the Galactic Council. Capital World, Admiral Shin Jae-wook's flagship, the Indomitable Will, dropped out of hyperspace directly above the council chambers. The massive space station that had been the center of galactic government for millennia suddenly found itself at the mercy of a species it had classified as primitive. High Counselor Kresna stood in the council chamber, surrounded by representatives from hundreds of species, all looking to him for leadership in this unprecedented crisis. "Open communications with the human fleet," he ordered. Admiral Shin's image appeared on the main viewer. She looked calm and professional, nothing like the savage rebel the aliens had expected to see. "High Counselor," she said with perfect diplomatic courtesy, "I believe we have matters to discuss. You have committed acts of war against the lawful government of the galaxy," Kresna declared, his crystal body flashing with authority patterns. "Surrender immediately and your species may be granted clemency." Admiral Shin's expression didn't change. "Counselor, you seem to misunderstand the situation. Your fleets have been defeated. Your military installations are under our control. Your own capital world is defenseless." She paused, letting that sink in before continuing. "We are not here to conquer. We are here to negotiate the terms of human independence and the restructuring of galactic government to prevent future atrocities." "Impossible!" shouted Nexus Prime Zalthok. "The galactic hierarchy has existed for millions of years. Tier 3 species do not dictate terms to their superiors." "The galactic hierarchy," Admiral Shin replied calmly, "was built on a lie. The lie that some species are naturally superior to others. We are here to replace that lie with a simple truth. All sentient beings deserve freedom and dignity." Around the council chamber, representatives from dozens of species shifted nervously. Many of them ruled over their own inferior populations. If humans could successfully challenge the hierarchy, what would prevent other oppressed species from following their example? The revolution had already begun. On worlds throughout the galaxy, news of human victories was spreading to enslaved populations who had been told that resistance was impossible. If humans could defeat the most powerful forces in known space, perhaps freedom was possible for everyone. Dr. Kim Tae-jin stood in the newly liberated research facility on Kepler 442b, reading through files that the aliens had tried to destroy. The documents revealed the full scope. 2 years had passed since the war ended, and the galaxy was learning to live in a world where humans were no longer slaves. President Park Mi-young stood at the viewing window of New Geneva Station, watching ships from a dozen different species dock peacefully at the ports below. The station, built in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, had become the new center of galactic government, not because humans demanded it, but because every free species had voted to place their shared capital in the system where the liberation began. "The morning reports, Madam President," said her aide, Secretary Yoon Dong-woo, the former sergeant who had helped coordinate the resistance on Kepler 442b. Park Mi-young smiled as she took the data pad. 2 years ago, she had been forbidden to speak in the Galactic Council without permission. Now she was the elected leader of the Galactic Confederation, representing not just humanity, but 43 species that had chosen to join the new government based on equality rather than hierarchy. The reports were encouraging. Trade between species was up 300% since the end of the war. Scientific collaboration was producing innovations at a rate that would have seemed impossible under the old system. Most importantly, there had been no armed conflicts between member species since the Confederation was established. "Any problems I should know about?" she asked. "The Vorthak Empire is still refusing to release their remaining human prisoners," Yun Dong-woo reported. They claim they're protecting them from reintegration trauma. Park Mi-young sighed. Some things never changed. There were still alien governments that couldn't accept the new reality. They clung to their old beliefs about racial hierarchy and natural superiority, even as the galaxy moved forward without them. Send Admiral Lee to handle it, she decided. But remind him, minimum force necessary. We're not like them. Fleet. Admiral Lee Kang-ho received the orders while his ship was patrolling the outer colonies. The former cargo captain who had once been forced to bow before alien overseers now commanded.